Yes, you can meditate and you can pray. All of that's wonderful. But it's ultimately and often not enough. We have to be compassionate, we have to be patient, and we have to be willing and able to have nuance. People, we have lost all capacity for nuance. What I want to talk to you today about is why we must learn to think and speak and really listen if we're going to succeed in our life, or if we don't, that we will absolutely fail. Not just as individuals, but in our relationships, in our work, and ultimately in the systems that make up our world. One of the greatest crises or pandemics that we are going through is a lack of our ability to really understand the process of real communication and conversation, the conversations that create conversion, that convert people to the next level of their own evolution. But that can't happen if we don't understand that what's really going on when we're in these dialogues, debates, arguments, and conversations, whether it's with our family members, friends, or individuals in the media or online. If we have to understand some fundamental things first, and that is that we are primarily in a conversation with ourselves, and that fundamentally speaking, the only place we can and must win the argument is within ourselves, because we're not really in the world. The world is in us. The relationships are in us. That every relationship we have, be it with a person, an opportunity, a project, a system, an organization, someone in the world or online, what that really represents is a relationship with a part of ourself, with a quality, a belief, a concept, an archetype, a shadow. We create or project these outer relationships to money, relationships to husband, father, mother, daughter, son, relationships to the president, relationships to somebody online. We project that not to win the argument out there. Fundamentally, they become our ally for us to get clear where we really stand. And I don't mean where we stand from a rigid, protective, defensive, proving and winning position. I mean, where are we really living and standing inside? It allows us, if we really enter into these conversations with the first and foremost desire to have a greater understanding. First, we have to understand them so that we can see what it moves and does to us, so we can understand ourselves. As I've been talking about lately, you cannot take a real strong stand in the world unless you have a clear and strong stand inside. And you cannot have a strong inner standing without a strong understanding. You have to know yourself. You have to know what you really think and believe, and you have to adopt, newly for many people, a very ancient principle and a core of any real enlightened or evolved individual, which is truly desiring to know myself and truly being willing to expand my awareness around my thoughts and my beliefs and my cherished ideas so I can actually see what's really running me. Because most people are being run almost entirely by programs. These programs are not the truth, and in many cases they're not even helpful, and in some cases they're absolutely self-sabotaging and destructive. But without an expanded awareness to see it, to look at it, what is called metacognition, to look at ourselves and go, oh, look at that story I'm telling myself. Notice how that makes me constricted and sad or angry or mad. Notice how that makes me want to act out or crumble or withdraw. Interesting. Is that the truth? Is it true about me? Is it true about life? As Byron Katie would say in the work, can I be absolutely certain that that's true? And most of the time, the answer is no. And then we begin to go on a journey to discover, well, what is another possible truth here? What else might be true about me? about my husband, about the president, about what's going on in politics, about what's happening in the world and all the conspiracy theories going around, some of which have some semblance of truth, some facts, but a lot of which is really old memes that have been floating around that a good propaganda machine has pulled together, tapping into the pain and the trauma and the fear and the desire of many people, and then it's given life. Because these memes are like genes, they want to survive. And they know how to speak to you to get you to feed them. And if you're not doing the inner work and the outer research, if you're not really in a deep dialogue and self-reflective state with yourself, you're going to get hooked. And you already are hooked. We're all hooked to some degree. We're all hooked, and every single person. If anybody's acting out, being angry, mean, resentful, vindictive, antagonistic, aggressive, destructive, murderous, whatever, they're hooked by a pattern. It's really important to understand it's not personal. It's a pattern. As the old joke or story or parable of the fish swimming along, and one fish is acting crazy and being rude and cutting in line, and no matter what they do, this fish will not listen. Finally, the whole school of fish just says, "Forget you, buddy, we're out of here." And first they beat him up and then they abandon him, only to reveal that that fish had been caught on a hook the whole time. So everybody's caught on a hook, and these hooks are beliefs based on a sense of separation from life, from love, a separation from the truth, these endarkened, ignorant parts of us that have created coping mechanisms and survival mechanisms and protective mechanisms to try to get through the day. At root, we are innocent. Jesus said, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." It's why Gandhi said, "Hate the sin, but love the sinner." And sin is an archery term that just means to miss the mark. It's a mistaken identity. It's a false or limited or mistaken belief that has become a meme in the collective awareness that we adopt and adapt to, and it becomes a program in our mind that runs us. Now, that's what's happening for all of us. And so we begin to have a level of compassion for everybody, knowing that, starting with ourselves. But then how do we get out of that? How do we wake up? Yes, you can meditate and you can pray. All of that's wonderful. But it's ultimately and often not enough. You have to be in conversation, in communion with others, because then you begin to experience the shadow dancing. You begin to see where you're triggered. You begin to see where you're actually traumatized. You begin to see the energy in motion, otherwise known as emotion, that has become stuck and stagnant from a long time ago when it wasn't able to move through you. You weren't able to cry or scream or rage and be held with compassion. So it got stuck. And now similar situations arise, they trigger that map of your reality, and you don't know it's happening in you. You think they're causing it. And so you attack. You try to shut them up, shut them down, cut them off, dox them, cancel them, argue, fight, convince them. And there's no amount of arguing, fighting, killing, or convincing that's going to ever make that pain go away in you. If you manage to convince somebody or destroy them or assassinate their character, you may temporarily assuage that feeling. But it hasn't gone anywhere. In fact, you've fed it even more, and it will arise again and eventually become a monster that starts devouring you. So we have to learn how to listen, both outside and inside. We have to learn how to really think, not just regurgitate, but to actually expand the avenue of our awareness called our mind, to have metacognition, the ability to think about what we're thinking about, to witness our own content of our consciousness, and observe. Ooh, look at that little trigger. Ooh, that really pissed me off. Ooh, that really scares me. Ooh, they're so disgusting and gross and ugly. Oh my God, they're the Antichrist. Whatever. Right? You guys know what I'm talking about. All this craziness going on the internet now. We are in the season of the conspiracy theory right now. The season. And it always happens during very difficult times where a new story is trying to emerge. And again, I know conspiracy theory comes from the CIA to try to shut up whistleblowers, but there's also such a thing as conspiracy theories, meaning they're not true. Yes, there's real facts and real things we need to call out, we need to research and expose and blow the whistle on. There's corrupt stuff going on in government and in the WHO organization and all business and in your own life, okay? We're all corrupted. We're all caught by the hook of fear, doubt, lack, limitation, and separation. So I'm not saying there's not real work to be done there, but I am saying with authority that much of what is being promulgated out there, propagated through propaganda, is a mechanism that is designed by the ego to shrink us, keep us small, keep us in fear, keep us running on a treadmill. And it will not produce ultimately good results because it's triggering and coming from fear, trauma, separation, and it's also making people blinded by the real roots of where these conspiracy theories are coming from. In other words, they're being produced by a place in people, some people that have agendas that are not for the highest good. But you can't get to this and see this if you're not willing to deeply self-reflect. Then you won't be like sheep following people, including following your own limited beliefs off the cliff. One of the things of being able to have real conversation with ourselves and with each other is understanding that we're going to be triggered, understanding that others will be triggered, understanding that we're dealing with a lot of landmines. We have to be compassionate, we have to be patient, and we have to be willing and able to have nuance. People, we have lost all capacity for nuance. These issues are not cut and dry. It's one of the problems that's now shown up on college campuses and a lot of the liberal media and all of the fragility and the snowflaking and the safe zones and the microaggressions and the political correctness. All of that is the shadow of the left, versus we know the shadow of the right is to be overly controlling or is to be overly selfish, whereas the shadow of the left is to be overly giving everybody, trying to believe everybody can have everything they need and everything can be equal. And what that does is it doesn't allow individuals to become robust. It doesn't allow individuals to have to face where they're triggered. As Mae West said, those that are easily offended need to be offended more often. Because when you allow yourself to be offended, when you allow yourself to listen to things you don't agree with, when you allow yourself to find within yourself places where you realize you're wrong, and you sit with the shame or the pain or the fear of that, you don't fall to pieces. You actually develop a healthy mental, emotional, and ultimately spiritual immune system. Just like if kids are allowed to play in the dirt and eat dirt, they get exposed to all the elements and their immune system builds all the antibodies. So it becomes robust and they're less sick. They become more anti-fragile. But if we are creating an environment where we're going to cancel somebody if we don't agree with them, or we're going to fight with them merely instead of really listening, or we're not going to share our honest and well thought out and intellectually rigorous perspective because we're afraid of being attacked, we don't have conversation anymore. We don't have freedom of speech anymore. And therefore we cannot speak our truth, hear another person's truth with a little t, and through the conversation, i.e. conversion process, discover the truth in the middle. Everybody should be heard, everybody, on both sides. And then if it's offensive or it hurts or it scares us, guess what that shows us? It shows us where our traumas are, where our shadows are, where our limited beliefs are, where our wounded masculine or wounded feminine is. And now finally we have a chance to actually meet those parts of us, to listen to those parts of us, to hear them and to hold them, to love them, and to finally reintegrate them back into our being. But if we're fighting everybody, blaming, shaming, judging, and projecting, or we're holding ourselves back from the conversation altogether, then what we get is the slow and steady and even now rapid decline of society, the decline of freedom, real freedom of speech. If you cannot speak your truth and work within a context to share truths, to find the greater truth in the middle, no evolution is possible. And a society without that goes into decadence, it goes into decay. A company without that stagnates and goes into decay. A relationship without that, a family without that, it erodes and it dies. If you do not remain available to what's emerging in the moment, and you do not remain available to your truth, my truth, and the truth in the middle, and you do not make yourself better and better at listening to the nuance, listening inside yourself, and cleaning up your own side of the street if you're offended or triggered, and staying in the conversation and putting all of it in service of the highest good of all. If we cannot build that capacity back, which we used to have to a greater degree, if we cannot do that, the United States won't last. It really won't. Your company won't last. Your relationship won't last. Society itself will continue to decay, and we will continue to create more and more laws. We will continue to create the condition for tyranny, for the potential of dictatorship, for civil unrest and even civil war, which we're seeing in micro ways. That we can see this in history when that occurs. We can see this in Germany after World War I, when they were so decimated and the people were so hungry for somebody to lead that they were willing to believe anything. They didn't speak up. They didn't speak their truth. And when it was possible, before the Nazis were in power, by then it was a little too late, because then there was so much power to wield and fear people into and kill people, to stop them, to put a chilling effect on freedom of speech and freedom of thought, that it gave rise to that fascist reality. Same thing in Russia, same thing in China. We saw it with Stalin and Lenin and all these things. We saw these things emerge. And don't think it can't happen in the US too. And don't think it can't happen in your marriage or in your family or with your children or with your business. At the center of all evolution and progress is honest self-reflection, self-awareness, and self-expression. And then that meets another in polarity, where they are also committed to honest self-reflection, self-awareness, and self-expression, i.e., knowing their truth and speaking it. And then through the process of conversation, there's a conversion effect. And we learn more about ourselves and each other, and we are moved closer and closer together until there's integration. There's real, from communication, there becomes communion, a common union. And now, through that, evolution occurs. And it occurs individually, in our sovereignty, and together in our unity, and then by two in our community. So we have to be willing to really think, to really listen, and to speak the truth, both to ourselves and to each other, listening to ourselves and to each other, and remember, the argument we really need to win is the one within. So I invite you to listen to this again, watch this again, practice this. Share below, what are the things you are triggered most by in the conversation in the world today? Feel free to give feedback and even pushback to me, as long as you are commenting in service of the highest good. Share if you feel triggered, so that you can share, I'm angry, I'm upset by this, but you're not blaming or projecting it, you're just allowing there to be a space to share. That's called a truth container. Then in that vulnerable, honest share, individuals can really reflect and really meet you. So feel free to share your feedback, your pushback. Share the areas where you know you need to listen more deeply to yourself, where you know you need to listen more deeply to others. And if we're willing to talk again and really listen again and really think again, we really can take our life and our world to a whole new level. Without it, it's impossible.